Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, I'm Sue Minahan. This is Talk Cosmos, and today is still November, of course, right in the middle of it. It's the 9th, and it's Planet Buzz. Laura Tad is on a special mission in Nicaragua for a wedding and won't be here, but I have a wonderful guest who you're perhaps familiar with. He's on another panel. But our topic today will be Jupiter, the great gas planet Trine, after its long voyage of its connection back in 2020, late 2020, with the other gas planet, Saturn. It's really a moment of new context. So let's find out what all that is about, because there's plenty to say. And now we're ready for Planet Buzz.
Focusing on perspectives of pattern planet cycle relationships and understanding their archetypal energy consciousness, reflecting through history, current events, mythology, and philosophical questions, these are the members of Planet Buzz.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
Plus, a special guest who we will introduce in just a short moment.
And as the ancient Hermetic code reveals,
as below, so above. As above, so below.
Yes, ain't that the truth? It is in every fashion, and astrology knows it all the time. Well, let's bring on this wonderful new guest, and that's Rob Passetti. Hi, Rob.
Hey, how are you doing? I love this topic. This is going to be such a powerful time here between the relationship between these two planets.
Indeed. We've been waiting for it ever since December 20th, 21st, 2020, when they conjunct. And so, yes, I'm excited too. Well, let's show a little bit of the folks who you are. Rob Passetti is in Pennsylvania, and his website is deepearthastrology.com. And pretty soon, I think you're pulling out a wonderful tarot deck that had had issues with shipping. I mean, really.
I picked the perfect time for it, let me tell you.
Well, isn't that true? Somehow that's the best way of looking at things. It's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on a little more of an expansion, Rob is a professional consulting astrologer, an author, a teacher at Center for Relationships and Astrology. That's with Margaret Gray, who interestingly is with us next month. So you'll get the full dose of these wonderful pair of people. And he specializes in vibrational astrology, which I'm studying myself, and psychological. He's a Grand Pentagon of the Ancient Order of Druids of America and director of the Magus Gathering, which is having a great success. And I think 2026, you can log in. I noticed you can't quite register, but in January, maybe the 26th.
Yeah, January.
Yep.
We're going to be opening the very beginning of January. It's a nature spirituality conference, very community based, and we've been having a lot of fun with it. This is our 10th year.
Oh, man, time flies. Here we are. We're flying.
Yeah.
That was just sort of an accident, but it is appropriate. Well, thank you, Rob. I'm thrilled to have this. So the seed of this whole relationship began with their conjunction, as we both know, but we'll discuss that. I know you have a lot to offer because you just wrote a paper on it. It did occur, I will say, on December 21st. I have a chart later at 0 degrees, 29 minutes Aquarius. It's called the Great Mutation because it also shifted this whole relationship of their conjunctions into another element, air.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind about this conjunction is that up until the 20th century, this was the outer planet arrangements. These were the largest planets that you could see with the naked eye. And it has a lot of cool names beside the Great Mutation. My favorite is the Great Chronocrator. It has just a feeling of vastness and power that you would see in that relationship between Jupiter and Saturn. And this is the beginning of a whole new cycle on top of a cycle, because what happens is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn is a 200-year cycle where it will spend most of its time in one element. We just moved into the air. We were in Earth for 200 years. There are some signs that pop up to the retrogradation of the synodic cycle, but generally they're going to be Earth signs the past 200 years. And
yeah, I think it's the second to the last that shows the preclursor.
Which is awesome.
It is. And that whole relationship between earth and air, just imagine jumping, it is challenging. It's like you can feel it, you can touch it, and then you hear it, you think it. It's not tangible.
For sure. And, we have to think that, the outer planets are a result of the advancement of technology. And with that advancement of technology, we were kind of able to open communication to a more collective worldwide base. When, before we were able to do that, we have to consider that communities were smaller. Communication was more difficult between tribes and between countries and between towns. So, getting back to this 20-year cycle in this smaller sense of community and collective makes a lot of sense.
Yes. In fact, since you're bringing that up, being in Aquarius has been this huge push towards restructuring community and networking and alliances. It's like, who are you partnering with? It's more the beehive approach. In fact, that reminds me, I've been seeing stars in the beehive. And, I love looking at the stars, but unless you're familiar with them, it's a little bit like, okay. But there you go. It's that cluster. It's that network, just like solar panels these days. It's stronger with many parts rather than just one that you depend on.
I was translating some texts from like the medieval Renaissance era, and Abu Mashar really, I think now my translation might be a little off, but he really referred to it as an archetypal heartbeat of civilization, is this relationship between Saturn and Jupiter. It's kind of that expansiveness where we find meaning, and that restriction where we find discipline. So oftentimes when we see them, meet in a synastry or in a chart together, it's often about metered growth. We actually use that terminology in vibrational astrology as the definition of the relationship between Saturn and Jupiter when they're working together. So this sense of metered growth over time becomes a big concept, and moving through these archetypal facets as well.
I love that expression. And it relates so strongly with the whole thing that I'm writing, that's a weaving between some fictional and other metered growth. That's exactly what I was thinking. Because if you have time on an interval, it's that space between. Are there beats? Are there not beats? Yeah, that's so fascinating. And eventually that's music. So here we had Pluto, which in this particular slide is the one at the bottom with a little heart, amazingly a heart that appears to be on its side. Oh, rats, I went backwards. Okay. And then we have also Saturn and Jupiter that were in it. So it is this expansion and this limitation, which we again and again are experiencing. Well, shall we look at a chart?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Here is more of this, I guess, the button business. I was just thinking, Now, why did I put that here? Well, anyway, it's pushing, I guess the whole idea of, hopefully I didn't put this in too late or too soon, on creativity. Is like, what was the thinking? Like just more riff with it
It's
now.
Mercury in retrograde. Anything goes, Sue. We're good. But I really like that you put pushing boundaries and solidifying the vision on here, because that statement also acknowledges the tacit conjunction that we have between Saturn and Neptune right now as well, and brings that outer planet energy of disillusion, being boundaryless in this,
Yeah.
which adds a flavor, certainly. And as you know, we now get into this situation where it's like this powerful Pisces energy and this powerful Cancer energy working together, and it's amazing.
It is. And when I think too, with changes, because everything is retrograde right now, we're experiencing a catharsis of deep emotion, reflecting, because it aggravates some trauma, trying to keep up with the change. Sometimes even when you bring it upon yourself, it's a lot of adjustments.
And if you look at like the world astrology or over the past few months, the concept, and I know we're going to talk about one later, but the grand water trine just seems to seem popping up in interesting places from month to month to month, really kind of just returning us to the subconscious, returning us to the inner realm, to the emotional realm. It just seems to be always expressing itself.
Absolutely. And particularly too with Pisces and Cancer. One is nurturing, they're both water, one is intuitive, when they both are within the context of psychic, meaning they are having a relationship. That energy has a relationship with source, whatever you call it, universe. It's the unseen. And that can bring up reminders, or besides all the reflection that these retrograde, because it's a multitude of retrograde planets that are all begging for attention.
And pulling Mercury, pulling Mercury into it really, allows it to have an intellectual quality. It allows us to not only experience it, but weave it into the fabric of our communication as well. So it's like we're merging our intellect, we're merging our looking for meaning, and we're merging that spiritual authority that we see when we combine the strength of Saturn and the boundaryless of Neptune.
And they're in this grand water trine that you had mentioned right here.
Yeah.
And with the idea that Mercury, and we'll see it right here, is conjunct. Now in this chart, it's a biwheel, and it on the inside, it is first relating to the seed that we were talking about with the conjunction. So that's that purple up at the top on the inner with Jupiter and Saturn, with a tiny circle. And then, and this is partly for our folks out there that are listening, on the outer will be the 2025 is the Scorpio new moon. And there, it's over on the 8th house, which is
extraordinarily powerful new moon. Okay, so let's, for the listeners out there, let's just take this to a solar system level. What you're seeing during this new moon is a perfect alignment between Earth, the moon, Mercury, and the sun. So imagine those 4 planetary bodies in perfect alignment at the time of the new moon. And it is a Scorpio new moon. It's going to be about going into the depths. But the thing about going to the depths is that we usually equate that to just an emotional experience. But by Mercury being there, this is a Cazimi, by the way. This is under 17 minutes is where the conjunction is. And Bernadette Brady used to call this a portal point.
I believe it. I love it.
Yeah. So, this kind of allows us to not only go deep, but also allow our intellect to go deep and marry the intellect with the emotional world.
Yes. It is. What else was I? I'm pausing just to look at this thing because it's a healing process. Interestingly, that Mars, which was absolutely next door, talk about aligned as far as the view from Earth, with Eris, E-R-I-S, in Aries, of inclusion or exclusion. And it's been a long, systematic, which it will continue to be. Eris is very prominent right now. It's only 1 degree from that spot. But instead of Mars, we have Chiron, the alchemist that's really blending what was perceived as a wound into a new meaningfulness. You know?
Yeah. And during a Scorpio new moon, who is the traditional ruler of Scorpio? Mars. Where is Mars right now? It's on the bending of the nodes. It's moving into that, So, I always equate Mars in Sagittarius with the more primal aspect of Sagittarius, whereas Sagittarius as a sign is the only sign that both combines the man and the beast. It's the centaur. When we're in Mars, we're always connecting to that more cardinal nature of ourselves. So I see this kind of as being like a hunt for our destiny, a spiritual hunt for our destiny being revealed by this new moon that is the Cazimi of Mercury in there, tying our deepest emotional realm to our intellect and moving forward. And that, can we be healers here? That's the real question that with what's going on with the transits, with that Chiron on top of the Mars. It's, are we wounded or are we the healer? I think that's really going to be a big factor in how this resonates.
Very good. Yeah. Is my story the only one? But in Cancer, that's the opportunity, especially with Mercury, to reframe our story. We can use that new experience. Like maybe the perspective is a little bit different. Our new information comes in with Mercury that says, you know what? How did the other person, what was their experience? And it shifts things a bit. And for folks, when a planet's at the bendings, that means it's square, which many of we know, but it means too that you're looking to our path that we came into, which happens to be the south node with this in Virgo of fixing and healing and maybe too many details and taking control, because you're able to do that, and you know that things will fall apart if you don't. But on the other hand, there's Pisces that's saying, hey, there's a natural order to things, and there is a higher purpose or energy, and so let it be. And what about the whole business, like the animals and etc.?
How it manifests too, when we're talking about a bending of the nodes, is based on what its relationship to the nodes is, and this is called a south bending. So the south bending often means that we need to sacrifice something. So, we're talking about Mars, we're talking about Sagittarius, we're talking about the hunt for meaning, the hunt for philosophy, the hunt for freedom. We may have to sacrifice some of our old philosophies that are no longer working for us to actualize this bending and get to our greater purpose.
I jotted that down. That is a keeper, Rob. Thank you so much, Rob Passetti. Well, I think we pretty much covered this little review, the emotional subconscious, and it's ahead coming up. As we go through this will be all of 2025, because Mercury is retrograde at 25 degrees, and and our Mercury is 24 degrees. So I think the next slide shows that. And here we have these new, if we have chaos, it's like pick and choose. How are we going to reform things? So it is an opportunity. Oh, I know. This is a pattern called the point of Thales. He was a Greek philosopher back in the day, and a point or a planet, the focal planet, is that mitigator. It serves to connect, and trine in a flow to an opposition.
Yeah.
All right. So here we have, guess what? This is next summer. Go ahead, Rob. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I just refer to it as an ambivalence triangle. That's kind of the that's more of a modern. But what it does really, it gives you an escape. It gives you that escape hatch point between the opposition. So I mean that whatever point is at that point of Thales is going to be essentially how we escape the need for integration within that opposition.
And which really intrigues me here as we're going through now, and we're going to pause here till we leave pretty much I mean, just for our break. That's folks.
Yeah,
I'm thinking outside. Yeah. Anyway.
until we transcend.
Yes. The mystery of all. Yeah, because here we have an opposition with the natal chart. This is our Sibley chart on the left. And right now we have this. In fact, I should really go back to it, I guess. I'm just wondering, or maybe I don't. But that retrograde happening, maybe I will go back. Where was it? Was it 11? No. Here it is. Yeah, where's Mercury? Mercury out here. Oh, it's at 21. It doesn't show it. Oh, what is this? That's on the 20th. Oh. Yeah, it's still retrograde. Go ahead.
It's retrograde mostly in Scorpio. This is just about the point though, where I think the 28th or the 29th is where it goes, where it stations, and starts to go to direct. But the interesting thing about this retrograde is that it's really going to spend the majority of time in Scorpio. It's only 6 degrees into Sag at the point of station. So, as we're moving back, while we're going to be talking about these Sagittarian themes of philosophy, of religion, of trusting instinct is important in Sagittarius as well, I think. And there is a wild optimism there. We're going to be going back into Scorpio and really having to go deep. And I think this new moon, just the weight of it, astrologically, especially with the Cazimi, is going to make this retrograde feel flavored by Sagittarius, but more of a Scorpionic event.
And it's always a real change factor. It shifts the tables within. I reflect back, experiencing them. It's like, whoa, that was a deep dive. And the beauty of it, there is treasure, as they say, once you go through it. It's sort of like a new gem to hold. Well, what I'm struggling with, and I'll just go along, is that I saw that Mercury was conjunct Jupiter in, okay, this is the wrong chart. So speeding ahead, here we have, okay, oh, it's this one here. Yes, see how Jupiter here, okay, this was in, why do I have the 31st? Oh, it's of Trine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, still, any rate. Oh, this is next year. Oh gosh, Sue. Okay, well, scratch it. But the point is, right now, I think Jupiter will retrograde on the 11th. That's what I'm thinking, of November, and at 25 degrees Cancer, and it retrogrades over our natal Mercury at 24 degrees.
Yes.
Thank you.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, I mean, from a nation standpoint, if we're talking about just a mundane, interpretation, usually when we see the development over time of a trine, it's going to represent a more easing of the economy in relationship to the government. And we are seeing some things happen right now within the Supreme Court that are really questioning, are we being taxed correctly? And that is the underlying argument that we're seeing pop up, So the structure of the government and the prosperity of the people are now going to be at a much looser angle. Now, I think that we need to be careful, though, because even though a trine is a smooth energy, it is more a need for a smooth energy.
As vibrational.
Yes, a need for a smooth energy will do whatever it takes to break out of the trine. When we did a lot of research on the trine from an aspect standpoint in vibrational astrology, 2 people showed up. The first was the woman who played Catwoman, and which was very interesting because there's she had those like smooth motions. There was that kind of that cat like
feline, yes,
feline energy that was very smooth, and she talked about that as being part of it. But we also saw a woman from Northern Europe who
was it Anne Hathaway?
No,
It
no,
just,
it was
oh,
it was the one
wasn't,
who
no.
played it in the original Batman series.
Oh,
I'm
yes,
not
yes, a
recalling the
beautiful woman. Yes,
Yeah, she was
yes,
amazing,
yeah.
and I
Yeah,
remember watching the
I
reruns in my youth,
remember.
and you could see that Trine energy in there. Her
Yeah.
ability to move through life with an easiness and a smoothness. But the other one that was really high was a woman in Northern Europe whose husband was in a diplomatic role, who would always leave but always wanted more kids. Well, she ended up doing some awful things with the kids and herself because she had no ability to have smoothness in her life. So if we don't have the smoothness, we're going to get the smoothness no matter what.
Yes, we need it. That's right.
Mhm.
Because I too, being a vibrational astrology person, and remember, folks, this is where you take thousands of charts and choose where the aspects are the closest to it and see what their lives, how did it really exhibit? And this idea not to discount a trine in any sense, because like if we're experiencing one from now for this new moon, which is a seed point for the whole month, and a deep one integrating all these ideas, we have this primal sense where the flow has to keep going. And so
Yeah.
people sabotage or they try to control it in some way to experience it. Absolutely.
I think all of this like Aquarius energy that we're currently experiencing between this great conjunction in Aquarius in 2020 and Pluto moving into Aquarius, even in astrology, we've seen astrologers really willing to take a more open approach to how we even define these basic things.
Mm.
The Tarnas is really dug into the concept of multivalence and archetypal multivalence, and now we're starting to see that even within the aspects with a lot of some very good astrologers where a trine is smooth, but it's a need for smoothness. Okay.
Yes, it's not just a cliche of one side. There's a
Yes,
whole prism. Yeah.
an opposition is very standoffish, but at the same time, if you're able to meet each other in the middle and just shake hands, there is opportunities for powerful integration. The integration is the solution to the opposition. The
Yeah.
trine isn't always smooth. It needs to be smooth.
Yeah, and exactly. I'm thinking too with an opposition, it's this idea of needing to adjust two things, rearrange two. It's two things that
Yeah.
need to get in some kind of contact.
Yeah, they share elemental modality, so there is common ground.
Well, we will be right back. This is Talk Cosmos, Jupiter, Trine, Saturn, which we're experiencing, and of course, we'll ahead next year more. And I am with Robert J. Passetti of many great return. Come back with us. We'll be right here. Thank you.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Scorpio, traditionally ruled by Mars, now ruled by Pluto. By departing a cycle based on comparison between extreme energies finding balance, Scorpio commits a relationship to exchange resources, experiencing power and powerlessness for the purpose of soul growth transformation. As a fixed water sign that is extreme, intense, and secretively deep, Scorpio's passionate nature questions the psychology and mystery concerning life and death.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
This is Martha Norwalk every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Dr. Nels Rasmussen at healingministryforanimals.com. We cover the world of animals. This week, November 16th, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and talk with your human or animal loved ones on this side or the other, and personal readings with Natasha Venter. I hope you can join us and plan to call in with your questions for either one of us. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Want to hear something different from talk radio? Keep your dial on Alternative Talk 1150.
Okay, we are back again, and this Jupiter and a Trine Saturn, and I'm with Rob Passetti of Deep Earth Astrology, and we're just here. His website is, and he's also Magus, that's Magus, gathering.org. And you can email him at Deep Earth Astrology because that tarot deck is coming out. What's the due date? Do you have one possibly?
Yeah, we're open. We're going to start selling it at UAC this year, so you'll be with me.
I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll pre-order for sure because
Yeah.
I've seen the artwork and I know it's really very strong. So
Yes.
that's super. And if people want to be on the Margaret Gray's with your classes, that's through.
Yeah. I mean, you could just go to relationshipandastrology.com. They're opening up the third level of synastry classes, and there's some like really great people coming. I know, like I'm a big fan of Alex Chernoeth. She's coming in to teach a little bit. We've got some other great teachers, and I'm going to be teaching, doing the TA stuff for that. So it'll be really fun. We're looking forward to it, and like I said, Margaret will be on in hopefully soon, and we will also have relationshipsandastrology.com.
Oh, great. Well, for Talk Cosmos, there are a potpourri of different ones where we've been examining 29 to 0 degrees because we're experiencing that for a whole year and presently, and of course Neptune itself. But beyond that, Pluto. Last week we looked at Pluto very deeply in many respects, and next week, of course, will be about this Scorpio new moon. Well, let's talk about this shift because we know that we're in an internal deep dive, and even vibrational astrology, when I pulled that up, that was a vibe 35, which means nothing to anybody except you and me, but it is 7. It's so personal and deep as we're exploring avenues. But the big thing I'm thinking on that scale is that we're moving from an action sign, which cardinal Cancer is, instinctive for protection and so many factors, to an immutable sign in Pisces, to a fixed sign and action. So where we have been acting and kind of changing how we do things, we're going to be settled. We're going to have purposes that we're working on, or promises, and innovatively going ahead, reinventing in a very Aries manner. It's a huge change. So this is what this reflects here, is the fire and the planets involved, Saturn and Jupiter.
Well, I think Jupiter in Cancer is really about building that cosmic egg around us. It's about having that kind of wall of protection, and within inside it, we keep our family, both chosen and inherited, our tribe, our emotional realm, and really the story. I mean, we have to consider that the summer equinox is Cancer. Okay, that is when we technically receive the most light, but we then pass it on to Leo, who can use all of that nurturing and that archetypal cosmic egg, that strength that we've cultivated, almost like the chariot, to move forward into a sense of self-actualization. So where we were really building our structures and, like you said, our protection in Cancer with Jupiter, which we also have to keep in mind, Jupiter is an exaltation in Cancer. You know, not all Jupiter is about luck and money. A lot of it is about finding an expansive sense of nourishment within our families and our tribes. we're going to be able to alchemize that from water to fire, where we now use this as a vehicle for self-actualization. And I'm sorry, Saturn in Aries is just going to be able to help that, because we're not going to be as restricted or confused as we are in Pisces.
Trying to gather all the points,
Yeah.
the whole cosmic egg, as you said. And I think you say solstice rather than
I'm sorry.
equinox.
Yes, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes, sorry.
yeah, that's okay. No, I hear it because you're very grounded with those
Yeah.
signs. But I love this terminology of bringing in, which I believe too so much, alchemy, because alchemy, I've learned to really associate whenever I think of Chiron, because it was wound to healer to and mastery, all of that. But alchemizing through the self-actualization from being nourished by our family group, whatever it is, that one that we choose. So often it's not our natal one, it's one of our findings that relate to our headspace, you might say, our soul purpose, which is very
And we're really existing. Everything that's happening right now is existing underneath this minor grand trine between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto.
Yeah.
So, while we're seeing that shake up a little bit, because Pluto went direct in Aquarius, Pisces went retrograde back in, or Neptune went retrograde back into Pisces, and Cancer is, and Uranus is also now in Taurus. The modalities are a little shifted. And once February 2026 comes around, which is a few months before this actually happens, we're going to see all three of those outer planets go direct into that more traditionally masculine modality. So all of that is going to feed into this change from these more telluric water and earth signs into a much more active, mostly for the self and our self-actualization, masculine signs, fire and air.
Yeah, and that is where earlier we were talking about well, however we see it, it's always that idea about, are my gifts is my purpose? How is it related to others? And that'll be
well. I mean, one of the base functions of the relationship between Jupiter and Saturn is giving structure to our meaning, and that is going, with Saturn in Aries, we're going to be able to kind of not be scared to start new structures.
Yes. You don't like this? Try it again some other way. It's exactly. No, I'm very excited about it too. And it's really a population. Think of every single person is receiving this idea, and you don't lead Aries. Aries leads off in their own direction, and those that choose decide to follow, Well, here we have the U.S. Sibley chart. Again, that is July 4th, 1776 at 5:10 p.m., although there are others, but this is a very common one, with the Sagittarius rising, which, of course, Jupiter is, we're a very philosophical nation with always a purpose, and we need to vocalize often. We can't be quiet.
I also think that Sagittarius, like I said, there's an innate optimism, and when this country is not feeling optimistic, it tends to really fall apart.
Well, the moon. I'm sorry, Rob. Here, am I interrupting? Okay. Well, I'm thinking our moon is in Aquarius, and Aquarius for evolutionary astrology really relates a lot to trauma, because yes, it's innovative, it's a genius, it's outside, it's elevated, it's seeing the whole bird eye view, but it can experience so many fast changes that are immediate at the moment that it can't keep up, and it's like the
I often see the word truth associated with Sagittarius, and while I do feel that's the case, it needs a qualifier, because Scorpio is the one that is looking for the ultimate truth. Sagittarius wants the freedom of truth. It wants to be able to explore different ideas. It wants to be able to connect to even foreign concepts. It wants to think on a higher level. So it's not concerned with the deep dark truth that lurks in the core of our psyche. It's more concerned with the ability to explore different philosophies to find truth, having freedom in truth. So, I think that's the big difference here. And that being said, with the Sagittarius being the ascendant of the US Sibley chart, we're fine just being on a vibe as a country as long as we're being told the right things. So I think that's really the way that manifests. And Saturn usually does come into this country, and when it sets its discipline down, it's not handled well.
Well, we have thinking exactly of this first actual true conjunction, which will be at 17 degrees and 8 minutes in Leo for Jupiter, which in this chart for the US is so strong because it is that Thales point to an opposition with with Saturn, which is in Libra. Saturn in Libra is really the general in some ways, very diplomatic, but it weighs out, unless they're gifted in weighing out an experience, both sides and other factors in them, we can be on the fence, to a certain degree.
And, of the point of Thales here, I mean, we're talking about Saturn. We're confronting We're confronting institutions. We're confronting our own personal sense of what is justice and how is justice applied to us.
Yes, ethic and justice. Yeah.
And that Jupiterian quality in Leo, it's not, that is our escape mechanism. That is the way that we kind of get out of that confrontation between Saturn that is having with itself. I mean, that's really what's happening. What is authority? What is government? What is structure? What is discipline in this country? Well, you're going to have a whole lot of people that are going to be experiencing that energy of Jupiter and Leo, wanting to focus on their own self-actualization and not be under this auspice of Saturn kind of pushing against us.
They figured out their direction. That's Leo. It's manifesting. It's that dream of creativity, and it rules children. It rules creativity itself, any project, any ambition. And if we're doing a lot of change, that's always opportunity for new inventions, new activities, some kind of business.
And listen, it might be a little bit of a loose orb, but I mean, that Jupiter is going to be trine our ascendant. So we're really going to be kind of focus. It's going to be about the people, and it's going to be about actualization and prosperity that is really going to be baked into our national identity, because that's what we're talking about with the ascendant in the first house. We're talking about the persona. So when we're talking about it on a mundane level, it's going to represent, the personality of the nation. It's, the vibe of the nation, what it wants to project. And I don't see Saturn being able to really be as functional as it wants to be.
There's an idea of renaissance that comes up when I hear people, and this factor, because this is the first one. There's two more, which I guess I will be bringing up. Oh no, this is a second trine. So there's one more in. My sweetheart here has a little music. That was an accentuation. But look here too. We have the heart of values and nurturing at best versus grief. So it's that interweaving of how to support the nurturing of everything.
And there's something in the greater cycle. We talked about how this is a 20-year cycle within a 200-year cycle.
Yep.
Well, if we look at the past few times that we've had this great conjunction, in the 60s, it was in Capricorn. Okay. That was all about kind of the power of the government. Then we got to 1980, and then it went into Libra. That was that next to last motion where it was in a sign that was not Earth. Well, the 80s was all about globalism. We saw that big expansion out into the world. And we saw it really focus on relationships. Pluto was also still in Libra when it hit in 1980. So we had that Libran energy of discovering relationships. What is equity? How do we build relationships out internationally?
Yeah, a precursor of how this is going to work. Yep.
Then we got to 2000. It went to Taurus and became all about resources.
The most fixed. Yes.
What is abundance in the world? And then it went into Aquarius. Now, what is the next sign
And
after
survival.
Yeah. So what is the sign that we're going to have the great conjunction?
Must be Gemini. Must be
2040?
Gemini.
Libra.
Yeah.
Libra.
Oh, is it Libra? It goes back that way.
Yes.
Oh, yes, of course.
So what is the interesting part about that is we had a Saturnian rule signed into a time of Renaissance and reaching out to the world. Now we're also going to have a Saturnian ruled sign in Aquarius that is going to be moving us into more connection with the world. So I absolutely agree that Renaissance is on the table, and that's going to be the kind of greater goal. I think we have a long road to that point, but at the same time, it almost feels like we're going to get back to that again. Sagittarius and Libra are a sextile. They are cooperative. Where optimism about where we're at now feeds into a reaching out and making connections versus something that's a lot more stricter.
Yes.
So, I mean, it doesn't, we have tech oligarchs right now. What's more Aquarian than a tech oligarch?
Well, originally those ideas, they were so many factors. It's like the beehive. It's where there's a huge group of people instead of one. But what I'm thinking about Renaissance is, again, it goes back to this idea of the whole prism of anything, because it's not all cherries without the pits, but it does show, if you go back looking at life, there's opportunity. And that is, if one is awake and connected. Communication makes a big deal of how opportunities happen. It's not just who you know, but it's that whole group effort. And I'm also remembering, that's what I wanted to bring up, that in February, such as we mentioned with Neptune, with Saturn and Neptune, which is at another seed point of Aries itself for 38 years, that's in many ways, like going back to vibrational astrology, which is so key to really perceiving the simplicity of something. It welcomes at its highest level that spiritual thought, because it's essential, Saturn, and what's extraordinary and magical that gives really that magic into life? Well, it's spirit, and you bring it together, and it's that force. So I'm thinking that as we step into, it's like every color, it sort of brings in another color, and suddenly you get a whole new landscape.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the sooner that we get out of the Neptune influence in Pisces, the better for some of this, because, Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. So we just assume that if it's in rulership, that it's going to present itself in a positive or a good way. That's not what it means. It just means that it works really well there. And Neptune likes to remove boundaries. It's the spiritual soup. It's everything all at once. And Aries is the exact opposite. It's not complicated. It just is what it is. And especially when we're talking Saturn moving into it as well, that is going, Saturn to me, a lot of times is the word no. And moving into Aries, we're going to be able to aggressively say, no.
Another thought, when you were talking, I remembered that the nodal axis changes. So when we get this second trine, which will be in 2027, we still have to get through 2026. And it's really a year of trines, but it will have the south node in Leo, which brings me to the third one, because look at this. We have it's not quite a nodal return, no, a nodal reversal, but that will be in 2 years. This will be 27. So on October 31st, because we just had Halloween.
Well, I mean, we also have to just keep in mind that, to get back to the next trine, we're going to have to pass through some quincunxes and some squares, so I mean, it's not just going to go from trine to trine. We're going to have a lot of tribulation in 2026.
Yes.
And I
That's
don't
what I
think
meant by the cherries. It's got the pits too. Yeah,
yeah,
go
it
ahead.
does have the pits, and that's happening really. I mean, I think from like February 2026 to the middle of 2027, because the other thing to keep in mind about this is Pluto's out of bounds until like 2028,
Yes, and
23.
the moon. They have this
Yeah,
10-year orbit that they've
yeah.
come in and go out. Yep.
So when a planet is out of bounds, it does not work any longer within what we call the solar order. It's not really too concerned with
Mhm.
fulfilling its traditional role within the solar system and within that archetypal ring. It will act in ways that we've never seen it act before because it is out of bounds, and it really is it is the slowest planet, obviously, of that mini grand trine. So it's the anchor. It's giving the weight to it.
Mm.
So it's but I do agree that once we get to like 2027, even the end of 2026, the orb starts to ease up. We're going to see the result of the things that we cultivate now in terms of that Saturn Jupiter relationship of putting structure to our sense of meaning.
It is important. Yes, right now is the seed, and we have this chance to use the Piscean in its best way with all of that return. I have Pluto retrograde. I was born in that period
Yeah.
of time. And
Yeah.
so it is anyway, and here, I think the cycles, it's true. You go too far up the tree, it's like, how did I get there? It's branch by branch as you climb up it, having climbed trees. But here we've had so many returns, natal returns. This year is our Jupiter return. It may not be exactly conjunct because we have an early Jupiter, but it's still in that year of return in Cancer. And here we have in Gemini the Uranus return ahead of us, but there's so many steps going forward. And if the one thing at this picture that looks to me, besides the fact that we're getting that reversal, which is a dynamic moment of opposition,
it's a pole shift.
Yeah, is that quincunx, that in conjunct, where they don't mix between Jupiter and our natal Pluto. So there's something about in Saturn, which is, I mean, not Saturn, but in Capricorn, that definitely by this time we've got to shift. Maybe the power all in one hand.
Yeah, I mean, Pluto in Capricorn is all about the power of the institution. And, it's going to be a very uncomfortable feeling for a great expansive self-actualization, which is what that Jupiter's going to, it's kind of going to be like the self versus the authority in a lot of ways, and whereas I do feel like there's a relatively easy resolution to the opposition, I feel like the quincunx is a little harder to resolve. It's like having the rock in the shoe and just putting up with it.
Yeah, it's like change. What are we doing? How are we doing this? Is it really working? No, and then we do this, and then we go back to change, and etc.
Yeah,
and then ahead of that, of course, is another. It's 18 months for a nodal axis. So we have that one in Leo Aquarius ahead, which is going to coincide with the U.S. But we also have Jupiter plowing every year ahead. And so it cycles and cycles. And that's where it's of service. So the better side of me, the optimistic side, I do like a little optimism. It keeps me moving. As long as, which it is that. But going backwards to remembering the reality, the sobering reality too, of there are boulders in the shoes or in the path. And it is our perspective that really makes the difference, and our unity with people.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's going to change.
I have a Jupiter in Virgo. I mean, it's considered to be not a great placement, but it's expansion through service. And after we've gone through that Jupiterian in Leo period where it's all about self-actualization, getting out of ourselves and getting into finding meaning through service, I feel is going to probably be a necessary thing that we're going to have to go through.
Yeah, I have Saturn in Virgo. Yes.
I do too, yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, no wonder yes. And it is really often with Virgo. I was hearing somebody bellyache about they between the Leo and the Virgo, and it was in a class I was taking. And it came to mind that as one's giving service, we have to remember the purpose of it and the why of it. And is it really answering ourself? Because if it's not, because at some point you want some kind of acknowledgement that, hey, you're doing it.
I agree. Well, I had so much fun. Thank you for having me. This has been a blast. I've really enjoyed this.
Oh, Rob, you're a heart send for the heartbeat of all this meter difference. So, folks, thank you so much, and definitely watch us next month. But may your retrograde bring you just what you need. And Rob, I'll see you again.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.